Stacking silver can feel slow, and I get it. Some days you wonder if this was even the right choice, and most people end up quitting before it pays off. And I want to show you why that happens and how to avoid being one of them. So let's break down in today's video why you shouldn't quit. So let's go. Want to win 100 ounces of American Silver Eagles completely free? Well, in case you missed out on the first opportunity, JM Bullion is now giving you a second chance to win 5 full tubes of 100 coins packed in a custom waterproof Pelican case. There is no purchase necessary, and the newest and latest giveaway is going to end on December 11th of this year. And if you want to get in on this last opportunity, click the link in the description below for a chance to win. And again, just to be clear, JM Bullion is not sponsoring this channel in any sort of way. This is just me wanting to pass this opportunity along to help you guys out. So don't miss out on this. Click on the link in the description to enter for your chance to win 100 ounces of free silver. Hi everybody, and welcome back to yet another video. So in today's video, I want to talk about why people end up quitting their stacking journey, whether it's with silver or gold. And it's honestly for a very simple reason. Silver and gold, they move very quietly. It's very slow. There's very little excitement associated to it. And the problem with that comes down to a few factors. And I believe people are constantly seeking a form of excitement and fun that comes from quick money flips that result in a cheap dopamine hit with a mixture of hope. And I think that's partially because that need for instant gratification and cheap dopamine hits has been programmed in our thinking due to social media, but also at the same time, people feel financially strained and they don't think that gold or silver can move fast enough to keep up with the price movements or the price increases that we're seeing with inflation. And so they seek alternative assets that can fill that need. And for the most part, yeah, silver and gold is boring and slow in terms of its growth, but for those of us who see this with an angle of a hobbyist mindset, it's far from boring, but that's also a biased perspective. And the thing I want to challenge anyone who may be thinking that gold and silver doesn't move fast enough or is just too boring to hear this possibility. If you knew that the end result of holding precious metals would allow you to win in the end, but it has to be a slow and boring process with no specific end date given, would you still quit? Because with a dying fiat currency in place, we don't know when the judgment day for the dollar will happen, but we do know that it will happen. So it's just a matter of when. But that when part becomes difficult for some to justify holding on to precious metals or switching into a completely different asset. Because if you knew you could go your whole entire life without having to see the end days of the dollar, then why would you get into gold and silver? It doesn't make sense to do that, but that could be a age-specific question, I guess. But then you would have to think about your family and the continuation and the generational wealth that you would build and so forth. But that's an entirely different topic. But regardless, I think many people, if not everybody, will go through these phases of an emotional cycle when it comes to stacking. So let's go over what that might look like. And I think there are 5 stages that we end up going through as stackers, and the difference are those who stay and those who leave. And that first stage is the excitement stage, and this is when you first get started. You have the confidence in your decision and you're motivated to stack for whatever reason it was that got you started. And this stage can last a while, but typically when the excitement starts to run out, this is when things can spiral out of control for people and they start to give up altogether. And usually that starts when an event takes place, like a price pullback or a price stall for a lengthy period of time. And a combination of that, while another asset that you've had your eye on starts to rip even higher, and you start playing this what if game in your head, and you start to question whether or not you made a mistake. But you don't give up because you just either got into it or you're in it for the long haul, and so you try to ignore the noise, and yet months, if not years, go by, but still it's not going anywhere that you would like it to, and now you're really contemplating the next phase, which is the temptation part. So after months or years, depending on your patience levels, you may or may not decide to call it. You struggle internally of whether or not to switch, and that can take many different forms, whether you decide to sell the entire stack or just portions of it to test other ideas. And for the sake of the final phase, let's assume that you did cash out because you did give up. And of course, it's the stage of regret, and it's usually at the buy or sell parts, because we know what happens when you buy, the prices go down, and when you sell, the prices go up. So because it's slow moving, people will give up early, and after a period of time, like we've seen with the recent highs of $50 silver, those who held on for years were rewarded, and those who gave up were left with nothing to show for. Which is why they say patience is a virtue, and the difference between any person going through these phases are those who stay and those who leave. And you will always be rewarded for your patience in the end. So despite all of that, yeah, silver and gold are boring by most people's standards, and I can see why, but precious metals are not supposed to move constantly. They are a store of value, not a speculative rocket that's just destined to go to the moon. And what will benefit you in the long run is when the confidence in the currency will shift away from the dollar, and we're already starting to see that more and more. And so we could see something like that happen in someone's lifetime, but we don't know when that will be, but it will happen. And after what could be a century or more, hundreds of years of consolidation, precious metals will put you on top when everything's all said and done and the currency of the fiat dollar system collapses. Now, I don't want this to be a negative doom and gloom scenario, but there hasn't been a fiat system that survives, and they all get devalued to zero, and when hyperinflation takes off, you'll wish you had patience in the past. And this is the mistake that a lot of people will make, and it's not their fault. It's just those who designed this system to exist, and it's going to be our part to help educate more and more people about what will happen, because it's just a matter of, what does the purpose of this serve? Gold and silver are your hedge. It's the foundation of what money is. And comparing assets that are designed for speed, like stocks or crypto or whatever, it's always going to be slow against those things. But again, it's about the purpose that it serves in a system that it lives under. So the advantages for those who are stacking will understand that the boring years are when those are the best moments to start stacking, because that's when everyone is distracted and we can keep accumulating more and more. And the boring period, we just went through it. We just got out of that boring period. And that was for roughly 10 years. After the 2011 run, we had 10 years of boring times from like 2012 to 2022 or something like that, roughly. And during those times, gold and silver were cheap compared to what they are today. But now they got people excited and the prices have gone up. So getting in while it's boring is the best time to do so. But I mean, actually, the best time to get into stacking is at any time, regardless. You don't have to wait. But it's just the slow periods are the best for accumulation, and stackers get that. So if you're watching this, you've likely been in some part of the patience testing cycle, and the temptation phase is where most people will walk away from. And I hope you weren't a part of that statistic, and if you are, I hope you get back on the horse and start stacking again, because I've been stuck in the excitement phase for almost 5 years now since I got started, and I don't think it'll ever be boring for me, but we'll have to wait and see. So with that being said, guys, let me know what you think. Drop a comment down below if you're going through any of these phases right now. Also comment how long you've been stacking for, and let's always remind each other to not give up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye, guys.